Thank you, Maria, and thank you, everyone. I want you to know that there is a place at the table. We've talked about this at our previous meetings. There's a place for everyone. And we will have a membership committee, a policy committee, and also a programming and events committee. So if you have an interest in working on any of those, you have a skill set and passion for moving forward and reaching out to people, developing policy and influencing policy, or working on the programming and communication side of things, then please let us know. You can let us know through our website, or you can let us know in the chat room today. So we're at the question and answer period of our caucus. I have a question for you, and that is, what are your interests and your priorities for the Women's Caucus? We said from the very beginning that everyone had a place at the table, and we want to hear your voice, and we want to be able to represent you well in the world and in the community college system. So I encourage you to put down in our chat room where you think you can best utilize your set of skills. It may be to influence another organization, AAUW, or serve on your board of trustees and bring these issues forward. It doesn't have to be a formalized way, but we would like to hear from you, what you think is important and where your passion lies. Also, if anyone has any questions for any of us, we've been trying to do that as we've been along in the chat room, but we're also open to answering any questions that you may have. You can unmute yourself and ask, or drop it into the chat room, either way. I used to be in the classroom, so I can wait a while.
Nan, you have a couple of people that have mentioned things on the chat. Do you want me to read those off to you?
Would you please?
Sure. So we have Samantha, who says she would like to support intersectionality to ensure that this caucus is supporting all of the women and female identifying members of our community. And we have Susan, who would love to work on communication. And those are the ones I have so far on the chat.
Okay. Anyone in our now our slate of officers like to speak to intersectionality, because we certainly have devoted some time to it in our meetings.
Well,
Erica?
I think that's one of the reasons that, you know, it's interesting. Until a couple of years ago, there weren't that many caucuses within the within CCLC, so much so that they could have all of their caucus meetings at the same time. If you go back and look at CCLC programs from a couple of years ago, they were all, you know, from 4 to 5 on one of the days. But now there are quite a few of us who overlap in those caucuses, and so I think we're going to see more attention to that, because we are here and we're not in other caucus meetings. There is, you know, there is an LGBTQ caucus now. There's been a veterans caucus. So I think we're going to start to see other groups come together, and I think the more we can do that, the better. And I think this is also, you know, going back to the EEO plans, I think this is part of our DEI efforts across the state. Is we really need to look at that intersectionality. We also have the conundrum of the CSU ethnic studies requirement that's very, you know, you either take a class in this or you take a class in this. And so that's another place where I think our voice saying, yeah, it's not just one thing. It's, you know, especially women across all of these categories. So what does that look like? And how do we accomplish that, both from an administrative perspective, as well as from what happens in the classroom? So however, I don't know what that looks like, but that's the excitement of being in this caucus.
Nan, we do have one hand up. I think it's Ruby. Go ahead and unmute.
Wow, don't know how I did that, but okay. I would just agree that I think it's really important to have intersectionality. I think, particularly at this moment in time that we're in, that we don't just kind of silo ourselves just as women, but to look at, other issues, particularly, I think much about the minority groups that many of us represent here in this group.
Thank you for those observations. And I don't want to misquote Dr. Gonzalez, but I believe if I could catch the essence of something she said in a tweet, which is, however you identify, it's sometimes difficult to know what may set off biases in others. And so to recognize who we are and to have the strength of knowing that, but also to be insightful about how others may be responding to us because of how we identify. Because in knowing that, that's how we make changes, by being forthright and direct. Any other questions? Answers to questions we didn't ask? Let's move to, go ahead.
Caucus. I noticed the LGBT caucus meeting was canceled. Is that right? Do we know why?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, it was canceled because we didn't get the word out to folks enough who were not attending, who hadn't already registered for the conference. What we found when we had our meeting back in November at CCLC was that we had a lot of folks who are not CEOs and who are not trustees who also want to be involved. So we were in the process of working on our bylaws. Like, we already have a really cool logo. We got, a lot of energy going, but we hadn't done enough. And we realized that a lot of folks didn't even know the meeting was coming. So we sent out a message to them, and I believe we're going to meet in March. So it's still there. It just didn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen.
Great, thank you.
Okay, well, let's move on to closing. And just thinking about what we've gone over today, reaching out to others, certainly acknowledging the accomplishments of others. That's something that we can do on a daily basis, isn't it? We don't have to reserve that for a caucus meeting or a resolution of the board. We will have a meeting in March, and that will be on International Women's Day, March 8th. And we'll post on our website and send out a message about the specific time, but usually we're in the 1 to 2 o'clock range, so you can mark that on your calendar now. I will tell you, I visited the Women's International webpage. A friend of mine advised me to do that, and the color is purple this year. I don't know what you want to do with that, but just wanted you to know. And also, you'll find that it's about hashtag we accept the challenge. There's so many ways in which we can accept the challenge to move forward for equity for women and to create a whole new world of leadership and expand that pipeline for community colleges. So if there isn't, this is the last opportunity for you to have a voice at the table. Going once, going twice, 3 times. All right, so we're closing out today. Thank you all for participating. This is an amazing group of people, and we look forward to working together to advance women in California community colleges. Have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maria. and Rena and Shannon in particular.